Hello and welcome to the Legacy Crusaders YouTube channel. My name is Benji and I'm here to share some important tips for new players of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. If you are not a new player, I'd recommend watching this video on tips regarding the runic cards. But if you are new, I'd recommend watching this video. If you're starting out and you're overwhelmed trying to figure out how to build your first deck or to improve your skills, that's why this video and this list of 5 tips has been built to help beginners avoid some early on pitfalls. So we're going to take a look at Master Duel and I'm going to go through a few key things you need to know. So the first thing is crafting the right cards. When the game first starts and you have your option to prepare any card you want, because the crafting system allows you to make any card in the game that you'd like, it's important to be very cautious when you're using your crafting points. Specifically your ultra and super rare points, you'll have plenty of normal and rare points. So at the very beginning of the game, you'll be able to get a lot of good normals and rares, which are lower value cards, but there are plenty of good ones to get, while you try and accumulate super and ultra rares, which you're going to need in order to produce good cards. So the easiest way to make your climb up the ranked ladder very difficult would be to use your ultra and super rare craft points very poorly right at the beginning of the game. With that being said, there's at least one card that's always worth crafting at the very beginning of the game when you have the first opportunity to do so, and that will be crafting Maxx C. So this is Maxx C. Maxx C is a hand trap that can help you win in games entirely on its own. Making it is a valuable addition to any deck. You can activate it from your hand by discarding it during either player's turn. Then you'll get to draw a card every time your opponent special summons a monster for the rest of the turn. And this can make it difficult for your opponent to break through your first turn board. They'll be afraid of letting you draw into other hand traps, such as Nibiru the Primal Being. Let me show you Nibiru. Nibiru is a card that punishes your opponent for special summoning or normal summoning 5 times in a turn. So if you don't have this card in your hand at the start of the game, if you draw it off of your Maxx C, your opponent will have been punished for special summoning multiple monsters, as this could stop their aggressive push through your board, should they be unable to end the game after special summoning so many times. So I'd recommend at least everyone play at least 1 Nibiru if you're going to be playing 3 Maxx C, and I recommend you craft 3 Maxx C and a Nibiru as soon as you can. If you activate Maxx C, your opponent might just stop special summoning. To avoid giving you the resources you're going to need to win on the crackback, such as board breakers like Raigeki and Lightning Storm. This is Raigeki, which is a spell card that can be used to destroy all of your opponent's monsters. And this is Lightning Storm, which is a spell card that can be used to destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters and all their spell and trap cards. Maxx C is also an excellent card if you're going second, as if you use it against your opponent while they're trying to set up their board, it'll force them to make a subpar board, making it easier for you to win on turn 2. And if they choose to keep special summoning, you'll actually accumulate a ton of resources you'll need to break their full board anyway. We call this taking the Maxx C challenge, and if they keep special summoning, ignoring the fact that they've been hit with Maxx C, you should be able to win on the next turn. Now, vice versa, if your opponent activates Maxx C against you and you find yourself taking the Maxx C challenge, and you intend to continue to special summon, it's preferable you do this while you're going second so that you have the opportunity to potentially win the game immediately on this turn, because if you get to next turn, you will probably lose the game because your opponent will have obtained the same amount of cards and board breakers needed to defeat you. So the next card I'd recommend everyone get, in addition to Maxx C, would be Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And the reason I recommend this card is that it's another hand trap you can discard from your hand. Once per turn during either player's turn, it has the effect to negate a card or effect that would allow you to add cards from your deck to your hand, including Maxx C, special summons a monster from the deck, or sends a card from the deck to the graveyard. And I think playing this against Maxx C is a good enough reason to play this in any deck, but it's at least decent versus any deck. So if your opponent doesn't play Maxx C, this card will still have a use. And the last card I'd recommend that everyone get is called Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is a quick play spell, which allows you to target a monster in your opponent's graveyard. It banishes that card and negates the effects of cards with that name for the next 2 turns. That includes yours, so you have to be careful when activating Called by the Grave if you target a card that's already in your hand or you know is in your deck, such as your own Maxx C and your own Ash Blossom. Now, Called by the Grave is really good against these cards, specifically because they are hand traps, and a lot of the hand traps discard themselves as cost, so they are in the graveyard to be used. Called by the Grave is really only useful on your first turn when you're playing a combo, because if you're going second, it's not a card you can use as a hand trap in response to your opponent's cards like Maxx C or Ash Blossom. Mostly what I'm really trying to get across with this tip is that these cards at the beginning of the game will give you an edge over your other opponents that you'll be playing in the rookie section of the ladder who did not know that they should probably craft Maxx C, Ash Blossom, and Called by the Grave at the beginning of the game. Our next tip is on obtaining the actual cards you'll want to fill your deck with beyond these staple cards. By the way, if you're not familiar with the term staple, it's cards that you can play in almost any deck and are be useful to own at all periods in time. So our next tip is regarding purchasing packs using gems. So if you go to the shop, there's different options for things you can purchase. The first of which is the Master Pack. So you never want to ever get any cards out of the Master Pack, and the reason you don't do that is because the Master Pack includes every card that exists in the entire game. All 7,162 cards that currently exist are available in the Master Pack. And if you buy a Master Pack, your odds of getting any particular card is very low. You can get any 8 cards from the Master Pack, and I'm sure there are more normals, rares, super rares than there are ultra rares, which might be the cards that you need the most of. What you should always do is try and gain access to the secret packs. Now, a secret pack is... Now, there is one exception, though, that if you would like to get the Master Pack, you should only get the bundles, which you can find here under the specials with bundles. There are 5 different ones currently that cost 750 gems and come with one staple card, such as Infinite Impermanence, Solemn Judgment, Lightning Storm, and Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, which are good value because normally 10 packs would cost 1,000 gems, and these cost 750 gems and are guaranteed to come with at least one good ultra rare. If you pull any good super rares or ultra rares, it will actually unlock the secret packs. The other way to open a secret pack is to craft a super or ultra rare from a secret pack, and just about every archetype card that would be a card that fits into the deck that you are trying to build belongs to a secret pack, unless it is one of the newest cards, in which case it might be found in the newest selection packs. But let's say I wanted to play Fallen of Albaz and Despia cards. They'd be located in the Alba Abyss pack, so in order to unlock this pack, I would just have to generate one of these super or ultra rares in this pack. So perhaps I'd want to generate a copy of Mirror Jade, the Iceblade Dragon, to gain access to this pack. The reason we get secret packs is that a secret pack comes with 4 cards from the Master Pack and 4 cards from the secret pack. And the cards from the secret pack, including the normals, the rares, and the supers and ultras, should be cards that you are trying to actually get for your deck. If you don't pull the normals and the rares that you need, you can actually just craft them because you'll have plenty of normal and rare points to do that. But you would like to avoid having to craft the ultras and the supers you're going to need because there's just a lot of them and it takes a lot of points to do this. And if you pull supers and ultras out of random packs that you have no interest in using, you'll have to dismantle those cards and then recraft cards that you could have just pulled anyway by purchasing the secret packs. So as soon as you know what kind of deck you're trying to build, you should unlock the secret pack by crafting the super or ultra rare card that you need anyway, and then spending your gems on that pack. If you finished purchasing packs that have the cards that you want in them, but still have gems and don't know what to use them on, you should just find another deck that you'd like to play at some point in the future, and open packs from that secret pack, so that you are at least pulling the cards that you actually would like to pull. If a secret pack happens to close because they're normally only open for 24 hours, you can always reopen it by crafting another copy of a super or an ultra rare from that secret pack. Let me show you how to craft a super or an ultra rare from a secret pack. So I'm going to go to the deck menu, which seems like a weird place to look for that. I'm going to open my deck, and let's say I wanted to craft, let's say I want to craft Lunalights. I have 1 copy of Lunalight Tiger, so if I craft one, and I can craft it in a couple of ways. One way is to click on the card and then click over here onto where it says generate. It'll ask me how many I want to generate. Now, if I want to, I can just generate both of the ones I don't have, but I can also just craft one and then try and pull the last one out of the secret pack. And while opening the secret pack, I'll pull the additional copies I'll need of things like the Lunalight fusion monsters. That's the goal. So I'm going to craft 1 copy of Lunalight Tiger, because it's a 3 of that you want to play in that deck. And you'll notice this key lights up, opening up a secret pack. So if I click on it, I'll see that Moonlit Avian Dance has become an available pack. If I go back to the shop, you'll see it's available in the secret pack options now, even though it wasn't there before. So I have Alba Abyss, and I also have access to Moonlit Avian Dance. Now, it's important to note that a lot of the staple cards in the game, other hand traps and board breakers, actually can only be pulled from the master pack, but most people wind up having to craft them because your odds of actually pulling them from a master pack are so low. You could also pull them from the master pack half of one of the secret packs. Now, our next tip is on dismantling and crafting cards. So I'm going to go back to the deck for a moment so I can demonstrate how to dismantle and craft a card. So I went over how to craft a card. It's a little harder to dismantle. So if I want to dismantle cards, what I have to do is click on this button on the top right and go to dismantle all extra cards. And if I happen to have more than 3 copies of a card, you see how these all say 0? It's because I've already done this. I don't have any extra copies of a card to dismantle. But it would increase my current CP or craft points based on the cards that I dismantle. So alternatively, I can go to dismantle selected cards. And then let's say I don't want this copy of Alpha the Magnet Warrior. I can drag it here or right click to add it to my dismantle list. And for each one, if I press dismantle, it'll give me 10 points per card. Since they're normals, I gain normal craft points, and because there were 3 of them, I gained 30. This card's called a Glossy. This is an Ursardic Megabilis. And if I were to dismantle this card, I gain 15 craft points because it's a glossy card rather than a standard card. This card's called a Royal Rare, and if I were to dismantle it, I actually get full 30 craft points back for it. So I'm never going to play the Monarch Stormforth, so I'm going to dismantle this and get 30 super rare craft points. This will actually replace the craft points I spent on the Lunalight Tiger while demonstrating earlier. So one of the things you're going to want to know how to do is how to dismantle supers and ultra rares from your pool so you can get the ultras and supers you need by getting craft points for them. So you'll open the filters, which is this button here. You'll click on the filters, you'll scroll down, you'll click on super and ultra, and you'll see the list of cards that you have that you would be willing to dismantle. Now, it's important to be mindful of the cards that you dismantle. While it may be tempting to get rid of cards you're not using, it's worth considering whether or not you might need those cards again in the future. Because when you dismantle a card, you'll only get 10, 15, or 30 craft points, and crafting a card is going to cost you 30 no matter what. You might potentially get a Glossy, which has additional value, or a Royal, which has additional value, but that's random. So unless you have more than 3 copies of a card already, you should be a little bit more careful when it comes to dismantling cards, unless you are 100% sure that the card you are trying to dismantle is a card you will never use. And the game has plenty of high rarity cards that you will never, ever, ever use, and you can very easily dismantle those cards in order to get the crafting materials needed to finish your deck. So other than at the very beginning of the game where you're trying to just get started, you're probably never going to be dismantling certain cards, with just the possibility that you'll ever play the deck that they're going to be in. Our next tip is getting gems so that you can purchase packs. Gems are the currency of the game, which you can get by playing the game. And one of those modes that you can get the gems in is called solo mode. So this is solo mode. I recommend playing through the tutorial and duel training right away because they give you a lot of gems. But after that, there are archetype campaigns, and if you go through the campaigns, you can also earn gems. So if you play these, there are 2 options for how you play the archetype mode. One of them does not give you gems, and one of them does. So the practice mode takes you through how the archetype works and forces you to play their deck. But everything here that says duel gives you the option to play with a loner deck, which they will show you what it is. It's not a deck you're probably ever going to want to play. And then there is your deck, so you can practice with your deck against the computer while also earning better rewards. Now, the important thing to know is at the end of each campaign, you can earn about 200 gems for completing the campaign with your own deck. Whereas with the loner deck, you usually get something like an icon or something that relates to the archetype, whereas you would probably prefer to get gems to get started in the game. So playing through the solo modes using your own deck is a good way to get gems at the beginning of the game. And if you're finding yourself having difficulties in solo mode, you can always press surrender in the game so that you don't have to slowly watch computer beat you if you're playing one of the loner decks and you're not sure what to do. And the last most important thing to do is during a duel. So I'm going to just pull up a game with my deck really briefly to show you. In solo mode, you can also pick if you're going first, second, or at random. So I'll just pick random, so I'm going second. So I want to show you a particular setting you want to turn on. So this is tip 5. It's very important that you turn on this setting. It'll help you in ranked mode. So I opened Maxx C. So I'm going to be asked constantly if I want to use this card because it has a quick effect that can be activated at any time. So if I go to the settings wheel and go to duel, I want to turn my activation confirmation on to switch and hold. The default is auto, which you don't want to use. You want it on switch and hold. On auto, whenever the opportunity to activate a card comes up that would make sense to activate, the game will ask you if you'd like to activate the card, and you can right-click to cancel so it goes away, or you can choose to activate a card. But on switch and hold, if you want to be prompted more, you can hold the left click, which will change the button on the bottom right instead of being on auto to on. So it will ask you if you want to activate a card every time an opportunity presents itself between plays. Whereas if you hold right click, it'll switch to off, and then it will never ask you if you want to activate a card. So I don't want to respond to any of my opponent's cards, so I'm just holding right click, so it'll just keep playing through their plays. But if I hold left click, it will ask me if I want to use a card pretty much at all possible times. So after I've drawn a card, it'll ask me if I want to activate a card. It's important to get good using the toggle on and toggle off, because by letting it do it automatically, it gives your opponent information about cards that you have access to in your hand. So most players play Maxx C. So if they see that you have the opportunity to activate something all the time, they'll assume you have Maxx C. So you want to avoid giving away information when the game pauses or doesn't pause. So you can make it look like you have it by putting toggle on, and you can make it look like you don't have it by having toggle off. Now, if you're looking for more specific information about the actual rules of Yu-Gi-Oh!, please check out this playlist. I've covered the entire rulebook of the game. Make sure you subscribe if you like these videos, and I'll see you guys next time.